Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of y'all, and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media, signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Look, I know the title is strange to you. You have heard me talk about the Superman Lois Lane syndrome for over a year now. And this actually illustrates what I'm talking about. But some of you already know where I'm going with this. When I say the Superman is real and he's black, I'm talking about you. And I'm not just talking about you in America, but I'm talking about you almost globally. But you see, most of these fictional stories are allegories of something that's real, exaggerations of something that is real, but with real themes. And if you want to take a look at it, it's been us who have been able to accomplish a lot. The pyramids were in fact built not only by Egyptians and non-Egyptians alike, but the pyramids were built by black Egyptians. Various complexions, but black Egyptians. The pyramids are not the only achievement in Africa. So if you Super Hotep, make sure you don't become Notep, because remember, although we are related to the ancient Egyptians, our ancestors came out of Western Central Africa. And not even every part of Central Africa, but our ancestors came from there. Some of them actually came from their northeast, which is Egypt. So we are related. But even within West Africa, we have ruins of ancient civilizations and artifacts that prove the existence and the civilization of people from a long time ago. In Zimbabwe, the Mwene Mutapa had their civilization. Songhai had its civilization. It had infrastructure. Before that was the Mali Empire, which not only had its civilization and its infrastructure, but even reached the Americas beforehand. Ivan Van Sertima talked about that. And before them was the Ghana Empire. And the territories of these three empires overlap, but they happen at different times. These are things that your ancestors put together. And it is us that have made Brazil great, whether it's in soccer or anything else for which it's great. The Colombians today, ironically, some of the least racist amongst Latin Americans, the Colombians today have a saying that even you don't hear in the Dominican Republic. They'll say, Africa has a history without Colombia, but Colombia has no history without Africa. And the funny thing is, it ain't even Africans that say this, because we don't say that the people who lived in Colombia, was today Colombia, before Columbus or Africans got there had no history. We don't say this about them. This is something that their descendants today in Colombia say regarding us. I met a Colombian with no visible black blood who proudly boasted to me that there was a part of Colombia in which they still spoke an African language. He was happy about this. I was not surprised by the info. I was surprised by his knowledge of this and his pride in this. He was telling me and an Ethiopian. I ain't gonna lie, I was gonna keep a distance from this dude because of his shade and I didn't think he was part black. I thought he was actually maybe Argentine or from Spain. Then I realized he didn't sound like the Spaniards the way he spoke. And so then he told me, and the Ethiopian friend of mine, we looked at each other in shock. I said, goodness gracious, you know that the Spaniards tried to force the Africans to not speak any African languages, but they still do in certain areas. And now we know that these places are called palenques, and they're called quilombos in Brazil. So the thing is that before we were racially terrorized, we accomplished a lot, and many other people did too. But afterwards, we still managed to do better than other people when you factor in what we've gone through and what they've gone through, we've still managed to come out doing better than others who went through the same racial terror in the form of colonization and/or slavery. Again, I'm not talking about just black Americans. I'm talking about black folk in general. And black men, you're the ones who have been forced to do better. Sisters done a lot. We know that without black women, humankind would not have gone to the moon and then come back safely. As a matter of fact, without black women, and we admit this, without black women, missions to the moon would not have landed on the actual moon, because the moon consistently moves around the planet. In order to land on the moon alive and come back alive, you have to plot not only where the moon is now at the time of your launch. That's a 3 to 4 day journey if you have any living things on board that need to be alive when they get back to Earth. So now you have to calculate where it's going to be in 3 or 4 days. And it's not a perfectly circular orbit either. That's the other thing about it. So since it's not a perfectly circular orbit, you've got to calculate how much it's going to accelerate or decelerate based on where in the orbit it is to know where it's going to be in 3 or 4 days. We admit black women did that. Are they going to admit that we're the ones who put America together? The world's superpower, the only superpower that even makes many Muslims forget their fear of God, and I'm not happy about that, but the only superpower that is capable of doing such was not put together, and it was not, some people say, well, it was designed by them, it's their thing. Yeah, it was built on their orders, but it was not built by massa. Maybe design, they requested the specifications, but they're not the architects of this. What I'm going to say, though, is that with this power comes great responsibility. Now that we know that we have it, there does come a responsibility with it. Now, it's not just a Superman-like power that we've had, but more importantly, let's take a look at this. Beyond just the power of the Superman character, let's look also at the mercy of the Superman character. In spite of all that he can do, in spite of how bullets bounce off of him, unless they're made of kryptonite, in spite of all of these things, who does he love? It took a long time for him to fall in love with a superheroine, so to speak. Herself a mythical character. It took a long time for that to happen, even in the fictitious storylines that men have created. Just imagine and put on paper and on film. But in the beginning, with all of his power, he loved helplessly a regular mortal lady who not only was mortal and had no special powers, but always got him into stuff. Always. And just got more careless as time went on because she got used to being rescued by him. I'm going to go stick my nose in these people's business right quick, because he gonna come swoop down and save me, no matter if he's asleep right now, because he ain't God. He's a Superman, but he's still a man from another planet. No matter that, forget about all that. He gonna swoop down and save me no matter what I do, so let me just go ahead and go in, get in these folk business and try to get the story. Never mind that he had already given her the exclusive interview to himself because he loved her. She still goes and sticks her nose out in everybody else's business in the name of what? Her career as a reporter. And this man never abandons her until recently. A few years ago, they changed the storyline. He finally gets with Wonder Woman. That's you, black man. You, with all of your powers and your abilities, from whom other men have gotten their powers and abilities, not because you're God and you bestowed them upon other men, but because we're their ancestors from whom they inherited this, what God gave us. You turn around and you hopelessly love the one that abuses your love. And this is part of why I've said in the West, you got to stop approaching. I'm not sitting up and saying, well, you need to be smart about who you approach. I'm saying you got to stop doing it. And look, I'm not just telling you this and not doing it. My current wife ain't from the West. So when I spoke to her, not only did I have a clue, actually somebody ratted out, so to speak, if you want to call that ratting out. Someone ratted out and said that she had noticed me. But in addition to this, she ain't from the West. So when I first spoke to her about what the right way is to go and ask someone's family about marriage was in her culture, I already had a clue. And she wasn't from the West. I knew where she was from originally at this point. I'd heard her speak the language. But I'm gonna tell y'all now straight away, look, when you're dealing with the Westerner, the Western woman, I've already told you that's Lois Lane. But how come nobody told you you're Superman? Why did you not realize this? You've been forced to be a super kind of man. That's what I'm talking about when I say Superman is real and he's black. I don't mean you can fly without machines and wings. I don't mean that you bulletproof. I don't mean that. But you rush ahead when others are naturally afraid. You feel fear and you still do things requiring bravery. That's why I'm saying this about you. You still do things that you are afraid to do, but you conquer the fear that paralyzes other men. And some would say, well, you know, black man, why are you saying you? Well, my inclusion in that category is debatable. I do count myself in the category of black, but I'm not the bravest or the most cowardly man. I'm really very normal as far as men of any race go. I'm nothing special, and I'm nothing especially weak or low either. I'm a normal man. I wake up and there are days when I just don't care about much, don't even fear death. And then I wake up on other days and I'm like, man, I already know I'm not gonna stand up to one single challenge today. I need a break. But you, most of you aren't even in that category. Most of you wake up and every day you go and you take on a challenge, old and new. And you do it for the approval and the salvation of Lois Lane, who abuses your love. Now, I'm gonna say one more thing, and it's not blasphemous. The Jesus, Isa alayhi salam of the Quran, is the Messiah born of a virgin, created as a miracle for people, but he was not arrogant. He did not claim to be God or the Son of God. He did not say anything about himself that his Lord and Maker did not tell him to say. He warned his people of the punishments and the rewards in the hereafter, and he warned his people of the Antichrist that was going to come later on, whose system is now already in place. And why am I mentioning Jesus of the Quran? I'm mentioning him to make you understand that what I'm about to tell you next is not to compare you to him. Although he be black in America today, and even in today's Brazil, he'd be black. Whereas in Brazil 40 years ago, he'd have been considered some other name that they come up with just to escape blackness. In today's Brazil, he'd be considered black. In Limon, Costa Rica, today he'd be considered black. But the mythical Jesus of the church, who died for the sins of other people, who died for the sins of the innocent, so that the innocent don't have to pay for their own sins, is a myth that you were later on forced to actually be. You see, black man, again, I'm not saying it's to blaspheme against God or any of his prophets and messengers, peace be to them. I'm saying it's because when that myth was created by the church a long time ago, that was probably before black folk were at the bottom of anything. But understand that myth that was perpetuated at that time about him wound up later on becoming the myth you were forced to really be. Suffer for the sins of not only others, but to suffer for the sins of those who hate you the most, and to suffer for the sins of those whom you love the most, cooperating with those who hate you the most. Do you see now? Do you get it now? You understand now? You see, you've been blamed for everything she done did. You've been blamed for everything he done did. He rapes her. She blames you for not protecting her, then turns around and says that you the rapist. He blames you for raping his woman. She blames you for raping her, and his woman turns around and blames you for raping her. Assalamu alaikum. Sabona baba. Manjani wena. So he blames you. Oh, going to school? Okay. Hey, have fun swimming. Sorry about that. That's my neighbor and his babies. So he blames you, and then his woman blames you for raping her on top of all of this, and they all cooperate, and the whole time he done raped the one you love the most. And she blaming you because you ain't bulletproof. Look, that's not all. That's not where it stops. That's just the most egregious example. But you gotta keep in mind too, look, man, even when it comes to little things, that's what you've been facing. Well, you racist and you colorist. And the whole time, she colorist. She been colorist against you when you highly melanated. Now she's colorist against you when you're barely melanated like myself. And in whichever case it is, that outright master's grandson can get at her. He can get it. The whole time. We can't be dark enough or light enough for her. But the whole time, master's grandson that did all this dirt and traumatized both of us can get it. Now that's her call to make. After all, her body, her choice, right? But even then, when she's with him, she wants to blame you. He wants to blame you. And see, that's what makes you not just similar to that mythical Superman character, but this is what makes you similar to the mythical Jesus, not the authentic Jesus per se, but the mythical Jesus that was outright blamed and killed for the sins of the guilty while being innocent himself. That's what you got to understand, gentlemen. And again, I say this not to blaspheme. But see, that superhero is you. That's what I'm getting at. Even when they make up a superhero, it's you. When they make up the Flash, fastest man in the universe, right? Who that? Was it not Usain Bolt a little while ago? I forgot who beat his record. But was it not Usain Bolt? And we never said that other people, other races of men could not become these things. They're hinting at you. And the last thing I'm gonna say to you about that is this. With this power does come responsibility. Because remember, there is a superpower, but we're not gonna see the superpower walk around on two legs. We pray to the superpower. And I'm not even talking about Jesus. Not the mythical Jesus, nor the real Jesus, peace be to him. But there is a superpower, and he prayed to that superpower like the other prophets did. And what I'm saying to you about that superpower is that when you achieve greatness in the eyes of man, that fleeting worldly greatness, you got to remember that it is fleeting. And if you get it the wrong way, you're going to lose it a particular way and you're going to become abased. All we got to do with this greatness that we've been given, that we have then passed on to our descendants of other races, all we got to do is just not abuse it. Not oppress somebody else with it. If we say we're going to use it responsibly. We're not going to oppress somebody with it, and we will not allow ourselves to be oppressed with it, having this or not having this. If we say this, then we don't set ourselves up to face the same abasement and humiliation that the United States military and government as a whole have just faced in Afghanistan, second Vietnam. That's what I want to point out to you. That superhero was you. Hulk. That's you, man. The Flash, that's you. I mean, think about it. Usain Bolt's name is Bolt. That's his real last name. He was born with that. He didn't pick that. And he winds up being the fastest man for however many years he was. I can't remember who broke his record, but again, that ain't important. As a matter of fact, I don't know if his record was broken. Man, that's him. I just mentioned the Flash. Who else? Remember the Green Lantern in that story? He had to, and in some of the versions of the Green Lantern, he was a brother. But remember, in the Green Lantern, the character Green Lantern had to talk to that council and tell them, you ain't wrong for feeling afraid, you're wrong for lying to yourselves about it and not controlling that fear anyway. That's the kind of lesson a black man teaches everybody else, because a lot of people think we don't feel fear. Sometimes they forget that we don't feel fear. And we're the ones that got to tell them, no, we human, we can feel fear, we just control it. That's a lesson I had to teach my son. I'm sure that Dr. T.S. Johnson had to teach his son who's 6'7" that same thing. You won't feel fear, you just control it. But see, now other people are afraid of his son. That's the black man's lesson right there to the rest of the world. People want to know, how is it y'all are so brave? It ain't that we never feel fear, we're human. It's that we control it. All we got to do is make sure we don't abuse it. Because the real superpower that made us can unmake us. And he can teach us whatever lesson he chooses to teach us in front of however many people he chooses to witness that lesson, in the hopes that they don't turn around and make the same mistake if we make it. This has been one of the blackest of the Black Service announcements. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power just because they don't like it. And black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.